Hello everyone. I Jitin Kapoor from Industry Division of Asian Productivity Organization Tokyo. Welcome all the viewers to the yet another session of APO's Productivity Talk. Today's topic, leveraging technologies for green productivity, fits well in the current era of globalization, wherein the businesses, specifically SMEs, which are the backbone of the economies and employment generation, especially in the APU member countries. These SMEs are always striving towards better quality, productivity enhancement, and human resource development with minimal environmental effects. The green productivity concept developed by the APO aims to improve this triple bottom line of businesses across the value chain, thereby leading to overall socio-economic development in the region.
We have with us today Mr. D. Rajnikant, Director from National Productivity Council India, to talk on how the benefits of adoption of advanced and innovative technologies can be reaped in terms of energy savings and monetary gains. Mr. Rajnikant has more than 2 decades of experience as an energy efficiency and management expert and a trainer as well. He has a Bachelor of Engineering in Chemical and Masters in Energy Systems. He is also an accredited energy auditor, Government of India, and a certified measurement and verification professional, and has successfully implemented many international assignments. He has also been facilitated by the Government of India for his valuable contribution towards sustainable development.
Hope you are doing well.
Hi, Mr. Jitan Kapoor. How are you? I am fine.
I'm good, thank you. Sir, before we start our interactive session, I kindly request all the viewers to please take advantage of the expertise of Mr. Rajnikant by posting their questions in the comment section. Mr. Rajnikant would be more than happy to respond to them.
Very good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Rajnikant. Now we are going to talk about leveraging technologies on green productivity. Green productivity is a concept developed by APO to develop the sustainable development by increasing the productivity and also environmental protection. The concept of green productivity is the strategy for enhancing productivity through environmental performance for overall social economic development. It not only increases or ensures the development of productivity or profitability of a company, it also reduces the impact of environment. The major focus of green productivity is to ensure profitability, that means the factor of inputs, ensure the quality, that means the voice of the customer, and also the sustainable development, means to take care of our environment. The major driving forces for this green productivity, there are two. One is internal and external forces. The concept of green productivity fits very apt in this COVID-19 scenario for all the SMEs because of they are in the very big turmoil state. There are various factors that affects the green productivity, that is internal efficiency. Now, the today's topic we are discussing on the technologies part of it. Once you are inefficient, you will be out of the competition and also the health and safety of the workers. The external factors that forces the green productivity or the environment regulations, resource pricing and availability, market opportunities. The great threat for SMEs nowadays is competing in the global market, then market image, consumer demand, customer requirement. You have manifold benefits of green productivity concept developed by APO. One is on the society part, another is on the customer part. When you produce by using the techniques and tools of GP, you have an increased profitability, reduced waste treatment and disposal cost, lower cost of production. As the cost of production is low, you are competing with the international market. You are going to meet the clients internationally. Then improved workers and safety. That leads to the sustainable development. As a customer, one expects a superior quality products. You can meet their demand, improved environment quality, health and safety of your employers. To identify these various GP tools, there are we have different tools that are available that are developed. By using any of the tool, you can identify the green productivity concepts to be implemented in the SMEs. If you see the methodology, a broad methodology to implement, once you start, you need to plan, then identify or evaluate the as is condition of the machinery in the plant. Then once you identify the options in your plant, then you try to implement the options. Once you implement, you monitor and review what are the fruits that you are going to get because of this implementation, how the productivity has been improved. We have various tools that are available for implementing GP, simple housekeeping measures, improved operating procedures. Basically the operating procedures are the major. You are not having effective operating procedures that affects the efficiency of the equipment. Then you need to go for recycle, reuse, and recovery. Basically, recovery is recovery of heat, maybe recovery of raw material. That saves a lot of money for the plant or entrepreneur who is running a small enterprise. That conserves the resources part of it. Now, today's topic, we are trying to deal with process and equipment change. That means the technological changes that has been done. It is not that the technology is not available. The large plants who are having a massive production, the large scale industries have already implemented these technologies, and they prove to be very viable. But coming to the SMEs part, for them they have different problems. Like capex is the major problem. Then no, normally the SMEs are basically a single man show. He monitors the process. He is the man who sees the market. So sometimes the SMEs are not aware of the technologies which are proven and have a very good impact on their total productivity. Right. So we have various GP tools. This is not a new thing. APO has established these tools well in hand, like brainstorming, flow charts, process flow diagrams, material and energy balance, plant layouts, eco maps, checklist, cause and effect diagram, or you call it as a fishbone diagram, benchmarking, and cost benefit analysis. We have various tools. We are not going into details of these tools because it is already been available in market, and so many companies have implemented these tools. Now, today's session, we are trying to see the overall technological categorization that can be brought in into the SME, where they can reap the benefits of these technologies which are already proven. The technologies can be broadly categorized into electrical and thermal utilities. You have, maximum demand controller, automatic power factor controller, energy storage system. You have some of the distribution companies will be having peak hours and non-peak hours. So to run the equipment on a non-peak hours duration, and try to reduce your kilowatt hour savings, try to reduce your kilowatt hour consumption, is one thing where energy storage systems plays a vital role. You have amorphous metal transformers. You have energy efficient transformers as high as 95, 96% IE3 and IE2. You have modern premium energy efficient pumps. We have variable frequency drives for the pumps, efficient compressors, and you have cooling tower fans with FRP. All these technologies have been established by large scale industries, and they're all proven that the payback period, the return on investment is very, very early. That saves not only your cost of your fuel or your electricity, but also improves the overall productivity of the plant. On the thermal side of it, you have FBC boilers, which we call it as a fluidized bed combustion boilers. We have heat recovery wheels, heat pipes. I will just go how it is going to, how this will help SMEs in the coming slides. Then you have efficient gas and oil burners. For your interesting, I brought some of the few case studies that have been implemented in SMEs in the Pacific region, where Asia's Pacific region, that how these small technological change will give so much of benefit for a small SMEs. I will be showing in the slides, upcoming slides. You have a flash steam recovery. You have a ceramic insulation technology, which is proven for all your furnaces. Then you have, wherever you have this pressure reducing valves, you can go for a de-superheating stations or a micro turbines. So these are all the technological developments that have been already established by large entities. But these technologies have to be percolate into SMEs where their energy consumption is higher, and which the higher energy consumption will lead to higher GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. Then you, if you are able to reduce this by applying any of these technologies, the productivity levels of the SME will go up, and they have a better market. They can compete with the international market. So if you broadly categorize in the investment part, you have to get back your money as early as possible. So if you invest some amount of money on one particular technology, you have technologies where you get back your money within 1 year. No, you get back your money, and rest of the life you're getting the savings of the technology being reaped by the plant. And there are some investments where it takes 2 to 3 years, like you have go for an FTC boilers. You go for a change of a higher capacity boiler. Then it goes for 2 to 3 years, where you get back your return on investment in 2 to 3 years. Maybe that is 36 months. Then if you invest with a bigger change in the plant layout, or 2 3 equipments or process change, if you invest, there are technologies that have been more than 3 years. But normally industry is interested in less than 1 year or 2 to 3 years. But depending upon the capex availability, they can go to different investment prioritizations. Now I am just run through different applicable technologies that are applicable in SMEs. We have this maximum demand controller. Out of my experience in this field in energy efficiency and resource conservation, we have seen in SMEs this was very well established technology, known to everybody in the large scale industries. But most of these SMEs were not much aware of this, where you will be having a contracted demand with your distribution company, maybe in terms of KVA, So if you have around 500 KVA as a contracted demand, they may be charging you depending upon the distribution company you are having agreement with. It varies from distribution company to distribution company, from country to country. In India, you have different states. Each state has its own costing mechanism. But if you see, on an average, normally it will be around 80% of the contracted demand will be charged a minimum. So, an SME, if he crosses the agreed contracted maximum demand, that means if it consumes more than 500 kVA, that is the agreed demand, he will be penalized. The penalty may be twice the amount of kVA that they are paying before. So most of the SMEs were not aware, and once they see the bill, they will be shocked by seeing that there have been an increased bill, and they were also not aware for what reason it has been it has been penalized. So if a proper control on the demand, that means a maximum demand controller, what it will do, it will control the demand once it reaches around the agreed 500 kVA of the contracted demand. Automatically it will switch off the non-essential loads. So always you are under the controlled demand as per the agreed formality with the distribution company. And you have automatic power factor controllers. Now if you see, some of the distribution companies will be charging on kilowatt hour basis, and some of the distribution companies will be charging on kVh basis. If you are either you are charging on kilowatt hour basis or kVh basis, you need to maintain your power factor, that is cost by kilowatt by kVA. If your power factor is less, naturally your electrical bill will be more, then your fuel consumption will be more, then your electricity, the total energy bill will be more for your company. And added to that, if your distribution company, if your distribution company selling you electricity to you is being charging on kilowatt hour basis, if you are not maintaining a power factor less than zero point 0.9, there may be even a penalty. That also depends upon the country in which they belong to, and the state or province or the distribution company which they are selling the power. But normally, a distribution company will be having a penalty levied on a SME or any company which they are having a very low power factor. So to avoid such type of penalties, you are having a automatic power factor controllers. What it will do, these automatic power factor controllers, whenever you have a low power factor, it will add automatically some amount of capacitors. So when the capacitors are added, it compensates the power factor and always maintain well above 0.95. To be precise, it is better to maintain near to the unity, so that you won't be having much penalty to be levied on your billing system. These are all, if you any SME, if you start analyzing their electricity bill thoroughly, or any technical consultant if they hire, from the electrical billing itself, they will be in a position to understand what are all the various penalties or various sections that they need to be very very cautious. Now we are talking about energy storage during non-peak hours. Even if anybody analyzes their bill, you will be charged on peak hours and non-peak hours duration. So if you are consuming, if you are running your machinery on peak hours, there will be an additional charge on your kilowatt hour. That means per unit consumed, the cost will be 10% or 20% extra of what actually you are consuming. So it is better always to run on essential loads on peak hours and non-essential loads on non-peak hours. So this has to be prioritized very clearly by SME. Otherwise, a simple operation of water pumping. So even that can be done in a non-peak hours, which is a non-essential activity. So you try to shift all your non-peak hour consumption on peak hour consumption on a non-peak hour hours duration, so that you will be reducing the 10 or 20% that additional charge that is being laid per kilowatt hour. So further, you are having a cold storage system. Nowadays you are also having a chilled water system. If you are having a continuous cooling load even on the peak hours, you try to have the ice banks to be made in non-peak hours, and you can switch off the compressor during peak hours and use this stored ice for cooling your system in the peak hour duration, which reduces a considerably great amount of energy. Then if you see, uh, it is not only for the ice bank system. Nowadays, you are also having for chilled water. This technology is available, but the cost of this technology is slightly higher if you see for SME. Whereas if you see the main transformer, the incoming transformer that is being used, our experience is the transformers are pretty old and oil-based transformers. Nowadays, you have amorphous metal transformers where your losses, no, the standard losses are very less, and the efficiency is as high as 93 to 95%. So you have very good efficient transformers like amorphous metal transformers available in your market. So you can shift to the transformer because no, you get payback period very early. Otherwise, a interesting thing as far as motors is concerned, if you see in a SME, once the motor goes off, no, it burns out. They send for a rewinding. That's a normal practice going for a rewinding. If you send a motor for a rewinding, the efficiency drops. The efficiency drops, and these are pretty old motors. But you have nowadays IE3, IE2 motors. Depending upon the size and frame of the motor, you get as high as 96% efficiency. The motors are available, so it is suggested for SMEs not to go for rewinding so frequently. The same motor should not go for rewinding, and that will lead you to more losses. If you invest some amount of money for your a new motor, you may get back the payback period within 1 year or so. This is one good investment that SMEs can be done, and there are so many programs in the developing nations happening to replace the old inefficient motors with energy efficient motor, and there are also so many financial models brought under ESCO to change these motors. And you have this no for the starting of these motors, no, you have this VFD control and soft starters. The inrush current when a motor is being start, no, to control that, you can start the motor so softly that no, there is no inrush that is being laid on there won't be much loading on your plant. Maximum demand also get increased if you start all these motors at a time. So you going for a soft starter is one efficient technology that is available and proven in the market. You have these VFDs nowadays. All these pumps or motors or screw chillers are coming with inbuilt VFD. Even you have your air conditioner systems that are all coming with inbuilt VFD, where as depending upon the load variations, the speed of the motor can be controlled. These are coming as a part of the equipment nowadays. You're coming as a part of the equipment. You have mushrooms of pumps. Pumps is one area where it is been not. I personally feel out of my experience that no, these are not taken care properly. Once it is being designed and erected in the plant, nobody bothers until it gets go for a breakdown, or it goes for some but no, the capacity of the pump is one major one, the designing to the actual requirement, or else the oversized capacity of the pump will lead to the damper operation, which damper operation is inefficient way of operating your system. So it increases your power consumption. So you have if your pump is oversized, and since you are being an SMU, you cannot replace the pump. In such case, you can go for a VFD if the loading is not, there are variations in the loading of your plant. And a detailed study can be conducted by an SME to arrive at whether the pump is overrating or underrating a clear study can be conducted. Now, for the pumps itself, you have various coatings that are available. The internal to reduce the internal friction, as from the impeller eye when it is going to your volute. To reduce this friction, there are so many coatings that are available. This itself proves that the efficiency, maybe around 0.5 to 1% of the efficiency will improve because of this reduction of your uh, um, reduction of this frictional friction by having these coatings, polymer coatings on your inside the pump, we are also having energy efficient fans. If you go for any SME where you have a boiler, you have an ID fan and a primary air fan, where no one will send the combustion air requirement into the boiler, and the other ID fan will suck the flue gases out of your system. So the fan always have the over by design itself on head or flow, it will be having a slightly higher capacities, because as you know, the temperature of the flue gas or combustion air changes. So you need to have certain by design certain margins for head and flow. So you don't know the dynamics from the combustion air going to your ID fan out of the flue gas. There will be around 20 to 15 to 20% slightly on the higher side design. So you need to have a VFD for that. Now all the new fans, very high efficient fans, premium fans are available with higher efficiencies, and they have also a inbuilt VFD as a arrangement. You have this chiller is one where no you have this SME bulk drug manufacturing, or where you have a chilled water requirement, or you have this chilled water requirement for your process or for your cooling of your building. You have nowadays the screw compressors available with inbuilt with VFDs. So no, the kilowatt hour per ton of this thing is been drastically reduced when compared to the reciprocating compressors. But still saying that whether you need to use the reciprocating compressor, screw compressor, or a centrifugal compressor, it all depends upon the requirement and volumes of water it require. But this technology is available in market, and you know that you have a compressed air system where you use the compressed air for your operation purpose, for your plant operation, and also for your instrumentation air requirement. So the instrumentation air requirement needs to be dried, because no there will be some amount of moisture, that moisture needs to be removed. So if you would like to remove that moisture, we have a new breed of air drying system, no refrigerant air drying, to remove the moisture, which is more efficient and compared to the normal absorption moisture refrigerant. Now you have this heat recovery wheels. Heat recovery wheels where very efficient. You have there is a slide, there is a picture that showing. You have you can just see. I'm just putting my cursor. The warm exhaust air is going out of the room, so you need quite a heating inside. You require heating inside. The warm exhaust air is going out of the room. Then when the ambient temperature is less, when the ambient temperature is less, so you are trying to take the ambient temperature air inside your room. So you just have a wheel. No, you just have a wheel, a rotary type wheel, where this wheel rotates. Some portion, the 50% portion of the wheel is open to this room exhaust air, and other 50% of the wheel is being open on the in outside air coming inside, right? So when this wheel rotates, the hot air moving from inside the room to exhaust air moving from inside to outside heats the wheel, As the wheel rotates to the top, then the cold air, the cold ambient air coming from outside to inside gets heated. No, you are recovering the heat from this heat wheel. No, these are very very implemented in almost all the hotels in software parks. These technologies have been implemented. Now you have a the new waste heat recovery device called as heat pipes. New in the sense, no, it is an established technology for large scale industries. New for SMEs. No, you have a heat pipe where you have a liquid where it is having very low sensible heat, and it gets a very low sensible heat. If the waste heat traveling goes one side of your heat pipe, then the heat of the waste gases taken by this liquid gets vaporized and goes to the other end. So the other end, because it becomes vapor, the other end, it gives the heat to the other liquid or fluid. So it is more efficient because it is not having any moving parts, and it has been widely used in many many processes in refineries, even wherever the small heat to be removed from your systems. This has been used very widely. If you see the conventional cooling tower in SMEs will be with no, not with they have a metal blades. The cooling tower fan will have a metal blades, and nowadays you have no FRP blades. This is called as fiber reinforced plastic blades. The energy will be reduced by 30%. You can see that this has been a proven technology implemented even in some of the SMEs which are capable of investing on the own way, by their own fund, capex. But this is one technology where you get back your payback period within less than 1 year, and this is proven, and the it is not so difficult to implement also, because it is not going to change any of your process requirements. It is simply to change your metal blades with your FRP blades. You have this magnetic bearing centrifugal chillers, oil free. You have a permanent magnet where because of this magnetic field this chiller operates, and this is one new one where all the hotels are implementing. All these chillers are coming in all the hotels, but the cost is, the capex is slightly higher, but if you see the overall return on investment, because the maintenance free, it is a maintenance free, and it has been implemented in all these hotels now. But this technology can also can be used by SMEs. SMEs where the maintenance comes to absolute zero, and you have a very good working environment during this. The workplace will be very good without any oil spillages, right? You have this fluidized bed combustion boilers. It's a proven technology, and the advantage of this boiler is that you can use multiple fuels. It's not, you can use a rice husk combined with coconut shell. You can use coal and this thing. No, the fuel will be in the fluidized state. It has as high as efficiency of 88 to 89% efficiency, and it is available in all as from as low as 6 ton per hour to almost around the higher capacities to 100 tons. The boiler is available. So these boilers, this will come into a medium term investment where no, you get back your payback in 2 to 3 years, depending upon the loading and the kind of you know operation hours you are having. Normally, whenever you generate steam by using these boilers, what we have observed is you generate at certain high temperature and pressure from your boiler, and you keep some what you call some leverage, no, to go to the end of the plant. Maybe you require 6 kg, you generate 8 kg. But when it reaches your equipment, you don't require that much pressure. So what you do, you keep a PRV. So what is PRV? PRV is pressure reducing valve. A simple PRV, what it will do, it will reduce your pressure, but the steam will be in the superheated condition. But you won't require that superheat. Right. So what you can do is nowadays all this PRV is coming with a desuperheating station. No, you generate some additional amount of steam at the end because they will be adding some amount of water when the PRV is added, because that superheating part will come down, and you get more steam with the same amount of coal. So this is one pretty having advantage. Otherwise, you won't require a superheated steam, but still you are using for the process. But all these losses are no, you are it is inbuilt. You, unless otherwise you go and do the analysis, you cannot know that you feel that the system is running very good. Then you are also having, as I told you, with desuperheating station, what you can have is no energy efficient burners. I have a very good case study for you people, for people who are seeing, who are watching this video. The crux of any combustion is, no, you need to atomize the fuel. The more you atomize and the more the combustion you are ensuring, the better the combustion, the more the heat you get, and the combustion goes in a right way. No, so you require to have efficient burners, efficient burners, and in market you have very good technologies that are available on oil burners and gas burners, where you have and where you can ensure proper combustion. If you are not ensuring proper combustion inside any boiler, what happens? You will be firing excess fuel, and you are also emitting more amount of greenhouse gas emissions into the into your atmosphere, right? So then you have one technology called as flat steam recovery. What you do is the normally you give blow down, blow down, and the steam trap outlet. Why you give blow down is because of the TDS that is present. The total dissolved solids, you give the blow down. So what you can do is that this is one of the finest technology what we have seen, that the hot condensate coming can be going into a flash steam chamber or a vessel, where no when it is flashes into that vessel, you get a low pressure steam, and condensate is being recovered. So that low pressure steam can be again back used into a boiler. So that is one advantage we have for this flash steam recovery. So your condensate recovery is also very good. Then you have this ceramic insulation for small furnaces in the SMEs, like a re-rolling mill. The surface losses will be very very high, and the insulation will be very pretty old. Maybe they might not have changed it. When you measure the surface temperature, anything above the ambient. A 50 plus of ambient, no, that shows that there is enough radiation losses. Radiation losses means you are losing your fuel, and also you are affecting the environment. So you have this ceramic insulation, not like refractory bricks. It can be foldable in any form. And these are very very efficient, and has a greater advantage of retaining the heat inside the furnace, retaining inside the furnace, right? So now I would like to discuss some of the case studies, how SMEs can be affected, and these technologies are not that very new technologies. These are the proven technologies that are available, uh, but the percolation into SMEs is still not at 100%. Some of the SMEs may not be aware of such type of technologies also. Right. So some of the few case studies is, I have one for a waste heat recovery potential. This is one of the case what where we did in a state called as UP in India. In India, it's near Taj Mahal. So they use this. They manufacture this. They manufacture these bangles in India. Bangles is major wearables for homemade women wearing these bangles, right? So you have different furnaces available, and all these furnaces were being made by a local people, and the furnace can be replaced or changed in any 10 days or 15 days. But what happens, if you see here, this is called is the final furnace. This is called as talibati. Talibati is a colloquial word, local word used there, but you call it as a furnace. Technically you call it as a furnace. You can see here, these are all gas fired burners, and you if you see here, there is so much of heat coming out from the furnace, and the hot flue gases at around 135 to 140 degrees centigrade is just going into the ambient. But the fresh air which is taken for combustion is being taken at ambient temperature, maybe around 35 to 40 degrees centigrade. So when we did this study, we thought we should devise a, here these are the various chambers, and for every chamber there will be a burner, and you have a blower here. This blower pushes the air, primary air for combustion, and the furnace, this is the primary air from the picture if you can see, and from the top you see this is the burner and gas is going. So the primary air and combustion is happening, and hot flue gases are just going out of the furnace. They are not aware how much is the economic loss and how much is the environmental loss that is happening. Once you we what we designed there, NPC, National Productivity Council, NPO of India, we have designed a heat exchanger, like we have run a one pass heat exchanger, where the heat exchanger is a one pass. The air goes into this tube, comes back, and again enters this furnace. Now the combustion air before is going at ambient. It is going now straight away from the ambient. Now if you see here, it is going at 135 degrees centigrade. So that much quantity of gas can be saved. If you see, in an annum, there is a savings of around 4,245 USD, just with an investment of $450, and with a simple payback period of 30 days. That means less than a month, you are getting back the money that is being invested as a capex. These are very small interventions that can be done in SME, which reduces a greenhouse gas emissions of approximately around 31 tons per year, which is a huge. This is being implemented, and in any SME you will be having a cluster of industries. Here in this area, the place where we study, it has more than 100 to 150 units. This can be replicated. And the beauty of SME cluster is, if the technology is proven in one unit, you can have a multifold replications seen in that cluster, because it is a proven in one place. They don't want to initiate on their own, but if they can really see the benefit of this resource conservation or GP study, they themselves will get motivated and implement such type of technological changes in their plant. And now I am going to say one of the case study. It is being done by National Productivity Council, NPO, for APO, a green productivity study. It is in a re-rolling mill. If you have a very good efficient burner, You can not only improve the combustion, especially in this type of re-rolling mills, but also improve the yield of the product. These are the basic statistics what I am showing you on the re-rolling mill. Furnace capacity is 10 tons per day, and the mill is operating for 10 hours. Operating days is around 250, and the production is was there for around 14,721. We have a specific oil consumption, we have a specific power consumption, and the total energy consumption of the plant. So what it is you have the metal coming here. It is like a pre-treatment. It is preheating, then it is entering into the furnace. It gets heated up to 950, and it will be soaked for some time, and the product is being removed. And being this a furnace, you have the waste heat going out of this, where you control, and you have a waste heat recovery device at the bottom, and you control the air flue gases going out by using a damper. Now, if you see here, as the damper is at 25, the furnace is having a lot of negative pressure. As there is a lot of negative pressure inside the furnace, the ambient air from the outside goes inside. Then naturally it affects the metal. No, it affects the yield. Then what we try to do is we improve the furnace damper control from 25 to 50. You see, it has come down to the positive pressure, and there is no outside air going inside. That means that there is an improvement in the yield. So further, if you go down, that means below 50, still further you reduce the damper size, damper closing by around 65%. It affects the combustion itself. So we have tried to estimate the level of damper operation for the operator. And we have conducted this study, and the yield, you can just see the yield change from 91.86 percentage to 95% is the yield improvement. So the yield improvement is there is more production is being come out from the furnace, because there is no outside air going inside, and the combustion is proper because of efficient burner technology. So because of these interventions that is being done in this small scale industry, the power savings are around 35.48 kilowatt hour per ton, and annual power savings in million kilowatt hour, and the monetary savings is around $67,860 per year, right? And you have because of the yield improvement, you are able to sell more product in the market. There is a very good yield that is been from 91% to 95%. And because of this, there is a huge amount of GHG emission reduction on the from that plant. No, this is one illustration, that is demonstration has been conducted by the plant. Now, if you see, this is one of the case is been done in Nepal. This boiler, if you see, there is no insulation. If you see, the boiler is running with risers, there is no insulation. It's a very bare pipelines, and the efficiency of the boiler is as low as 36%. We were shocked to see that how this boiler can run at this 36%. No, they know the technology, but sometimes no, the capex is the problem. So you have different models. You have different financing models available in world now, where the SMEs can move forward. One such model is in a ESCO model. The efficiency is 35%, and if you see, the investment is around 14,285 USD, and with a feasible potential of at the 60% loading, it can save around 7,573 USD, and with a simple payback period of 2 years. You get back your money, and the life of the boiler is almost 20 years or so, 20 years or odd. So you can use this boiler, and rest of the time you have a efficient boiler in your system. You can just convert into a energy efficient boiler, right? And this is one more case study on a textile plant. This if you go to any small textile unit, once your cloth is being dyed, it has to go to two rollers where it get compressed, then the cloth should be dried, and that machine is called as a stinter. In the stinter operation, if your moisture content is more in the cloth, then you have more amount of steam required to be used, because the cloth needs to be dried up to some extent, as because you need to remove most of the moisture during this between these rollers. If these rollers are not functioning properly, there will be a additional load on your stinter, and the stinter runs with oil, right? This is one case. So we did a case exercise. We measured the oil consumption. We tried to improve the roller performance by increasing the pressure, from 4 kg per centimeter square to 6 kg per centimeter square, just by improving the squeezing power on the cloth. There is the moisture load on the stinter is reduced, and the improvement is around 60.68% on the performance of the mangle performance, and the stinter performance has improved by almost around 7%. This is one of the efficient way in which you are reducing the load on your stinter, right? Now, if you see what are the various challenges that has been faced during the implementation of this GP, one is the major problem is the capex. The major problem is the capex, and you have it's not that the technologies are not known by the SMEs. They may be knowing, but no, they want that particular technology to implement it in their own cluster, in their own nature of the in their own nature of the process, so that they get confidence that this technology can be implemented in this cluster and in this process. So with this, I would like to end my presentation, and I hope that I have given I have covered almost all the good available technologies in the market. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for your valuable presentation. And I do hope that our viewers, especially the SME owners, would have gained a lot. Let us start with the questions now. With your vast experience, may you please throw some light on the challenges faced by the SMEs in adopting technologies? Is it the financial constraint, awareness, or return on investment?
Yeah, basically that is one question that always comes, because this type of technologies can be implemented by all the large manufacturers or units, but basically for SMEs, they are unable to realize what is the cost benefit. Somebody has to help them and explain them that the ROI is very very quick, you get back. Sometimes no, they are not aware. Some of the industries, they are not aware that such type of technology is available, and they have a very high energy bill when compared to the other units. A few of them. Sometimes some of the units know the knowledge, and but they are very first cost sensitive. That means no, they don't want to take the risk. Somebody else should implement the technology. If it is proven, then they would like to take. And Mostly some are like no policy level, and some are like no the knowledge they cannot afford to implement. Somebody should be handhold them, like no, how APO conducts some studies in some clusters. Somebody should a consultant should go and handhold them to implement such type of technologies. That are the major barriers that normally comes in such type of scenario.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Now, under the current extraordinary circumstances evolved due to COVID-19, the SMEs are the worst hit. However, the innovative implementation of technologies can help the SMEs wave through this turmoil. May I kindly ask your views, please, on this?
Yeah, definitely, because COVID-19 has affected not only the country's economy, but most hit is this SMEs. Uh, Now, sometimes you should convert into a positive way. SMEs can start thinking, we have discussed about different electrical and thermal utilities, thermal technologies that are available. So the innovation pitch in here, that what sort of technologies that they can implement so that the energy cost can come down. They can again come back with a again with that same spirit, and they can meet the international market or the existing crisis. So these technologies will definitely play a major role in this scenario, because energy cost is the major cost in some of the SMEs. Almost all around 30 to 40% is the total production cost is the energy cost in some of the SMEs. So that these technological interventions will definitely give a innovation process or innovation thought process for SMEs to implement them.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, when we talk about implementing the technologies, that is one thing. But how can these SMEs reap the maximum amount of benefit from a particular technology after they implement it?
If you see like FBC boilers, we have discussed one case study. The loss is it is in terms of fuel. The efficiency is only 35%. The loss
Yeah.
is in terms of resources, and the loss is in terms of environment. It's a perfect case study where if an SME goes for a technology where it is being available in market, which is having almost all 85 to 86% efficiency, straight away they can get back the capex that is being invested by them in 2 years. That is and the rest of the life of the equipment is a, benefit for the SME, and they can reap the maximum fruits out of this particular technology. Even if you see the case study on your waste heat recovery that is been already implemented in India. That's a simple waste heat recovery device, a heat exchanger, a small heat exchanger, that has given them a very good amount of savings, and the cost is only $450. The maximum benefit that can be done. So SME should prioritize the technologies that they should go for, and first they should invest in technology where it has to come back their return on investment in less than 1 year. Then slowly they can progress towards medium and high investment technologies.
But don't you think that the governments and the industrial associations have a very vital role in percolating these advanced technologies at an enterprise level?
Absolutely, absolutely right. If you see, majorly association play a major role, because they have the same frequency. They know the associations will talk to each other. They talk to the unit people, and if these associations are very vibrant. If these associations are very vibrant, we have seen some of the associations are very vibrant. They perc- they conduct magazines, or they conduct meetings and explain this is what the new technology that has been coming into the market. And policy level policy level association should in line with the government. They should work with the government, and all these some of the nations have policy level interventions for SMEs also. And it is not that policy level interventions were not there. Even if you see in most of the countries, SMEs has played a vital role in bringing such type of small technologies, and many sponsors are coming in front to invest money in this technology, because they have seen the return on investment is very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Now, moving to the next question, may you please enlighten us on the new business models facilitating the implementation of the technologies? Because when we talk about the era of globalization or the era of competitiveness, so can you please enlighten us on that?
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Jitin, definitely. You know, in 90s and 2000s, people used to invest on their own capex. Now we have a very good financial model. ESCOs, no, energy saving companies are coming in front to help such type of SMEs where they cannot invest the money. So initially, they keep their fund or capex to recover the savings. They go for an agreement with the SME. The capital investment will be done for an ESCO, and depending on the savings agreed between the unit owner and the sponsor or the ESCO company, it goes for agreed months or agreed years. So that after agreed years, after the ESCO recovers his capex money, depending on the agreement that they have, the ESCO will leave the capital equipment to the owner, and he go back. So it is a very win-win situation where you have ESCO is benefiting in terms of getting back his money, and industry is benefiting because of the increased productivity, new technology, reduction of your fuel consumption. And overall, as a nation, if you see the current burning situation of climatic change, you are also able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So there are ESCO models available in nations who are actively participating in implementing these energy conservation or GP models.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And whenever we talk about the implementation of a technology, it always requires some amount of money. And what the SME owners, what they tend to kind of realize is that what is their monetary savings and how much energy they have saved. So, are there any established frameworks to ascertain the energy and the monetary savings realized after the implementation of a technology?
Yeah, normally there is always a conflict when it comes sharing of fund. So there are established systems and procedures, protocols. They have different protocols by countries that have been established for ESCOs, measurement and verification protocols, certified measurement and verification protocols. So that ensures that protocol ensures that it is unbiased. They establish the baseline. They correct the baseline depending on the production because the conditions will change. They allocate the static factors, independent factors that affects your production, and
Yeah,
these factors have been considered. Then only the saving is being shared between the ESCO and you have so many professionals that are available in market who establish and be as a middleman to uh,
mm,
to uh, to prove that the savings are there and the savings can be shared like this.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable inputs. Now, when we see from the perspective of an Asia Pacific region, what role can these technological interventions play in improving the energy density at a national level?
Yeah, if you see all these countries, for example, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, we have India is having around 1,181 kilowatt hours per person per year is the per capita energy consumption. Pakistan is having 471, whereas Fiji Islands is having 874, Cambodia is 256, Bangladesh is 351. So these are all emerging nations. No, these nations definitely require these technologies, and what are the case studies I have shown to you, or basically from these nations only, and the percolation of this technology is very much required for these nations and especially into the SMEs, so that the overall as a nation it will reduce the energy density.
Yeah, thank you. And moving to our last question, may I kindly request your expert views on how the APO Secretariat can serve better its member countries in terms of maybe raising awareness or building the strategy or in terms of policy advisory or the expert services on its green productivity concept.
Yeah, it's really APO is doing its pivotal role from so many years, and the concept of GP, which has been established by APO itself, has taken a very good shape and helped so many industries to implement. If further need to be done, already it is doing so much, but if further need to be done, I wish that APO should come out with some smart practices and technologies for climate resilient technologies for SMEs. So this will definitely a manual that will be handy for SMEs, where they can bring in various types of technologies available, operational practices, and that will be a handy handbook for SMEs from for various sectors.
Okay. So it was very much wonderful speaking to you, Mr. Rajnikant. Before ending, would you like to give any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I first of all congratulate APO for organizing
Thank you.
such a very good webinar or P-Talk on your leveraging technology for SME, because that requires for SMEs, that requires for SMEs. Again, they have to come back because SMEs are the backbone for the economy, especially in these nations. And I wish that APO take a few more steps, like building some manuals or procedures for SMEs, which will help them to come in and again come back to its original shape and work even in this COVID-19 scenario. Thank you
Of
very
course.
much.
Thank you. Before we wind up our session, I request all the viewers to please subscribe to the APO's YouTube channel and receive the first-hand information on the upcoming productivity talks on pertinent topics related to productivity enhancement, innovation, competitiveness, economic resilience, etc., by eminent speakers of international repute like Mr. Rajnikant. Thanks once again, Mr. Rajnikant.